CNN, though, it's amazing the number of topics that they're propagandists for. Let's check the difference between CNN and reality. So electric vehicles, they expect to lose between $5 and $5.5 billion, which CNN said was a growth of 83%. CNN wants their hit piece. They want their hit piece, and they don't care about reality. So these are two people that were part of the Hunter Biden tax investigation. Reyes, for her part, appeared to accuse the DOJ of hypocrisy, stating, "You guys pursue criminal investigations and put people in jail for not showing up, but then order personnel to do the same thing." Hunter Biden defied a congressional subpoena. DOJ says you don't need to show up for a subpoena. But if you're friendly with Trump, like any good government, there's different rules depending on who you are. This is corrupt. Welcome to Loaded Talk. I am your congressman, the third most popular candidate to ever be. I am Frank, and along with me, as always...
What's up, planet Earth? I'm Bean.
Sorry. So I did something today. You know, I go through, and there's certain weeks where, like, on Tuesday, like, I know what we're talking about this weekend. There's some weeks that kind of go by, and you go, well, that's kind of interesting. Especially when you're busy and you're pretty much checked out of existence for about 2 weeks. So I got curious, and I was like, I wonder what it looks like on the home pages of things like CNN and Fox News and MSNBC, ABC. And MSNBC is exactly what you would expect it to be. It's, just here's how, whatever the left wing narrative is that you hear anywhere about, all of that's MSNBC. The whole thing's just that. And you go, all right, well, that makes sense. Like, this thing's racist, and I don't know, Tim Scott started something to try and get more black voters for the GOP, and he's calling it like the starting five or something like that, because it's like 5 black Republican Congress people or something like that. But they're like, which is interesting because all these are a bunch of like bench warming people watching MAGA from the sideline. And it's just like, okay, well, this seems like news and not just vitriol. And then I was surprised by Fox News. I mean, the first couple articles, what you expect, it's Trump good, Democrats stupid, look at this DEI woke thing or whatever. Then after that, it just got into these weird, like, all their images would have like a little text box on top of the image with like a weird little zinger type thing. Like, there's an article about how Charles Barkley and Stephen A. Smith may have revealed who they're voting for in a conversation and blah, 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 blah. And so, like, the text over it said full court press.
It's like just dad jokes. Like.
It's something like that, where they're giving a category to everything, where it's just like, 3 words, where it's just like, let me give I don't know. It's like they set a category. At first blush, it looks like, like maybe a hashtag type thing. Like, everything will fall under this. But you just think, like, there's no way Fox News has multiple full court press articles, but just all these silly little zinger things. And like, after like the first couple articles, it just looked like any sort of gossip magazine designed for like the TikTok, Snapchat kind of deal,
Yeah.
Which is probably them trying to stay relevant with young people because their TV channel is not.
Oh, like attention spans? Like they're just throwing like keywords out there to grab the younger generation's attention?
Hey, why don't you just jump over to Fox News on one of these browsers? We'll just scroll through them real quick. Like, it's, I think maybe a little attention span thing. Maybe it's just a design thing that they're like, the youth likes this kind of stuff. Yeah, just FoxNews.com. We can switch over to it. But it was, so I was a little surprised. I thought Fox News would be more like MSNBC. All right, you got to switch. So look, we got Bueller, Look, Fetterman breaks ranks with woke Home Alone. Blood on her hands. Off the sidelines. Reality is coming. New wave. Born in Synanon?
That is weird.
Yeah, see a puff pass on a volcano? Volcano sends amazing smoke rings into the sky and rare phenomenon. Puff pass, Fox News puts on there. By the way, the game-changing new Costco item, I looked at that. That is pretty badass. It's a 10 by 12 glass structure that it doesn't have a floor or like AC, but it's designed to be put up in a weekend. And it's like it's got a angled roof and gutters. And it costs $4,500 at Costco.
Like a greenhouse?
Yeah, they say it can be anything. It can be an office. It can be a gym. There's no floor. It's just walls, and apparently you can switch them between windows and screens. This is dad hour at this point because it was pretty awesome. But yeah, so you see like there's some stuff like Fetterman silly, but then you get into sports and like all these like weird, like I don't know, all these weird kind of tag things. And so,
Is this like modern marketing? Is that what this is?
I think, Fox News, their demo is, over the age of 50, maybe over the age of 60, and so maybe their website, they're trying to keep cool for the kids. Ex-WNBA player makes clear stance with transgender athletes in women's sports off the sidelines.
But then some of them are in single quote, like they're paraphrasing. So that's really confusing.
I bet you that means that they pull a quote from the article.
Okay.
WNBA legend fires off warning shot at star college basketball player Caitlin Clark. Which, how do they got 2 WNBA articles in their top 7 articles?
Because they have no news.
Like I said, some weeks are just run amok with topics, and then sometimes you want to talk about 2 ex-WNBA athletes. Not 1, 2 different ex-WNBA athletes, because no one knows the pulse of this country like the WNBA. The WNBA retired athletes are the bedrock of this nation, the cornerstone of our society.
I'm off of this.
Okay. Yeah, for good measure, or for good reason. So anyway, I was going through all these, and so Fox News, I was surprised by. MSNBC, not so surprised by. CNN, though, it was, I guess, not all that surprising either. It was, but it was amazing the number of topics that they're propagandists for. And so, like, Elon Musk has fallen into disfavor, right? He said he'd vote for DeSantis at some point. He said he doesn't think Biden's up for the job. He's against DEI and central bank digital currencies. And he's been very vocal about this. He calls, the woke mind virus and things like that. So he is no longer a darling of the left. And, because of that, he gets bad press. So I saw an article on CNN, one of their top articles, mind you, okay? So much like the WNBA being so important to Fox, this article about Tesla was important to CNN. But I had read other articles this week about comparable topics. So let's check the difference between CNN and reality, shall we? Okay. Their title is called "What's Wrong with Tesla?" Which, they go, look at these things. All right. Last quarter, Tesla posted its first annual sales decline since the pandemic, a drop that was significantly worse than expected. The company blamed a weak Chinese economy, arson at its German factory, and supply constraints because of escalating conflict in the Middle East. Those factors certainly aren't helping, but Tesla's problems can't all be blamed on outside factors. Some of it's inevitable. New competitors have entered the market, and at some point they had to start taking away sales from Tesla. Okay, and now they are. Blah blah. Is that Tesla made itself an easy target by missing its goals? Meanwhile, overall electric vehicle sales in the United States have flattened out in recent months. EV sales growth has been slowing for a while, but in the last 2 quarters, EV sales didn't increase much at all, according to the estimates. But upon closer inspection, what seems like a widespread disinterest in electric vehicles may reflect largely less interest in Tesla. So You got Audi. So some automakers, including Audi, BMW, Mercedes, Rivian, are reporting EV sales growth of more than 50% over the past year. Do you think maybe it's because they went from like not focusing on them to suddenly having electric vehicle offerings, and suddenly instead of having like a Prius-looking Leaf type thing, they were like, oh, let's make a luxury car that's EV, and we'll sell those. And like so they increased it from 12 to 18 sales or whatever.
Yeah.
So, okay. So that's a little fun with numbers. And here's another one. Ford later said its sales were up 86%. So let's keep that in mind. They just went through all these things, and then Ford sales are up 86%. Or EV sales.
On their own books, right? That's from their own books.
That's what CNN is saying. CNN is saying Ford's EV sales are up 86%. And all this is saying that, like...
So that means they sold none last year.
So let's look at the midway down here. Tesla isn't the victim of an EV sales slowdown. It's a cause. So price drops, blah, 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 blah. Last year, Tesla sales were up 38% compared to 22. Plunged more than 20% from the same time last year. Anyway, they went down. Their quarterly sales numbers didn't hit their targets. Okay. The United States, Tesla still make up about 56% of all electric vehicles sold in 2023, while that's much less than the roughly 80% of EV sales Tesla accounted for in 2019 when there was no competition. According to Edmunds.com, it's still a majority, which, I mean, quite frankly, we're basically talking about just Elon Musk started a car company, and not that long ago. And so, like, he's still... like in the time that he's been making Teslas, and BMW, Ford, Toyota, Honda, all these people could jump in anytime they want. There's a Prius, there's all this stuff. And so even after all these people have had all these years watching Elon Musk get very rich, Teslas are still 56% of the market.
And he's made all of their patents public so that the other companies would copy him.
Is that right?
Yeah. He wants other companies. He wants competition because he knows that it's positive in the long run.
Wow. I didn't even know that part.
Yeah.
Well, that makes it more ridiculous. All right. Let's see. All right. So between the first quarter of 2023 and first quarter of 2024, sales grew an estimated 15%. But if you leave out Tesla, sales of other EVs were up 33%. So anyway, this goes through Musk's brand. But Elon Musk could be causing problems for his brand and for whatever. He has in recent years defended racist tirades. I don't think he did that. And agreed with anti-Semitic statements. I don't think that happened. Also, Tesla removed support for DEI. Yep, he did do that. And Musk renamed Twitter after buying it, reinstated the accounts of avowed racists. So here you go. Musk is a bad guy, and Tesla is... I think I remember.
Is this about electric cars or about Tesla or about Musk?
It's about Musk. Come on. Here, Elon Musk agrees with anti-Semitic ex-post that claims Jews push hatred against white people. Oh, I remember. We talked about this.
Yeah, we did talk about it.
Yeah. Look at that flag. Yeah, I heard this is a government thing, but I heard this person who's sort of a, I guess you'd call her a Palestinian advocate, but not in the weird murderous type of way. And so she's a critic of the Israeli government, obviously, which is fair.
Yeah.
And so, but she said that one thing the Israeli government has done better than any other country, maybe more than any other country, is that when you look at their flag, you got the Star of David there, right? Mm-hmm. And it was supposed to be the first nation of Jews and all that kind of stuff. Makes sense. Anyway. But she was like, they've been able to like wrap the government in the religion all at the same time. So anytime you're critical of the government, now you're inherently critical of the religion, which of course is not what most people are trying to do. They're just like, hey, that's stupid. I hate what you're doing as a national policy. They go, I hate Jews.
Like, perfect.
It's like, no, not that. All right. Well, anyway, so that was CNN. So CNN says, Elon Musk is such a racist friendly, radical figure that Teslas have been discredited, and people don't want him anymore. He misses the deadlines, and so that's why the EV market has been suffering. Electric vehicles are suffering because of Elon Musk, because that dude don't vote Democrat anymore.
Even though if you go back the last 5, I mean, you probably go back further, the last 5 years of numbers, he's destroyed every goal because they had a problem with all the bonuses he was getting from it.
I mean,
So if he does well, there's a problem. If he doesn't do well, it's a problem.
yeah, no, I mean, like, and it's amazing how much stuff that guy does. Like, you know, I do think once you get outside of some of his realms of expertise, like when he was saying he was going to beat up Zuckerberg, as fun as that sounds, I mean, Zuckerberg's legit training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I just don't think Musk can take him. You know?
I'll still pay to watch that.
Oh, hell yes. Like that and Mike Tyson versus, was it Logan Paul?
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna pay to watch that. Like, apparently they might not let that go. Well, because they're waiting for the Texas Boxing Commission to approve it. And the problem is, if you're like juicing with like testosterone, that's against the rules. But when you're like a 50-something-year-old dude who's doing hormone replacement therapy, you're probably taking some testosterone, you know? And I don't know how you get around that other than...
Does he need it?
Does Mike Tyson need it?
Yeah.
I mean, he used to be kind of fat and silly, you know?
He's going to beat his ass.
He might. But, like, and maybe at this point you take away his testosterone and have him pee. That's the other thing. Like, how can you... depending on... I don't know. I guess I can tell. But, like, when you're, like, if you're old enough that your testosterone levels have dropped and you're supplementing, could you tell through...
It's true. You might be able to stop him at a certain point and like let it drop real quick.
Well, like, could you even tell? Like, I know if you're taking like steroids, they test for like steroids. But like, and like, I guess they could.
Oh yeah.
Can they test for HGH?
Testosterone is technically natural, and
yeah. I wonder how that works. Like elevated levels, sure, but if
he elevates them to normal
well,
levels,
yeah, if his levels are that of Logan Paul's. What's the issue? I don't know. I have a feeling with all this money that they're playing with, they're going to run some tests on their own before
pre-testing. Yeah.
Because like, you know, we want this fight to happen. We all want this fight. Yes. And I do. I want him to take his head off. Like, the Paul brothers, I barely know anything about both of them. I assume, did they used to do video game things?
Well,
they're YouTube people.
They're YouTube people. That's all I know.
Okay. Yeah, I know nothing about them. And I didn't realize there's two of them, actually, for the longest time.
Yeah, I got confused about that. I thought it was a guy using two different names. Because they look the same.
They look the same.
Are they twins?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
But once the one dude, Logan? Jake? One of them.
Yeah.
Jake.
That's
Logan.
both of them. I don't know which one's who.
When the one started boxing and got all big, I was like, they look different now. There's two people. And I was clear about that. And, I mean, he is training, and he's kind of doing it in a fun way. I mean, if he would, like, he's taking it seriously in his training. He's not going through the normal route to, like, be a member of, you know, WBC and all that kind of stuff. But he is getting big money fights, and he's showing that he knows how to fight. I'd like to see him do some normal fights, but I guess why do normal fights when you get paid a ton of money and, like, get less... brain damage, you know. But I kind of hope Mike Tyson gives him brain damage, or at least, you know, a knockout, which is one and the same thing, really. When you're talking about hoping for knockouts, hoping for brain damage. Let's just be honest. All right. Anyway, get away from the Pauls. I forget why we were even talking about that. But all right. So CNN, Elon Musk is sinking everything. He's sinking everything. So let's look at some other articles. So this is the right-wing rag, the Associated Press, you know, notorious for being Nazi propaganda. Headline, Ford to delay production of new electric pickup and large SUV as U.S. EV sales growth slows. Let's see. There's a key part in here. Basically, they had some big things, and they're putting off for another year or so. They said, like, hybrid sales are good. Let's see. Recent retreat comes as U.S. EV sales growth slowed to 3.3% first year, far below the 47% increase fueled record sales last year. Where's the numbers here? Okay. Ford expects pre-tax losses for his electric vehicle unit to widen from $4.7 billion last year to a range of $5 to $5.5 billion. So electric vehicles, they expect to lose between $5 and $5.5 billion, which CNN said was a growth of 83%. They said Ford sales have gone up 83% in their electric vehicles, which means losing $5 to $5.5 billion. So like CNN, instead of saying, yeah, everybody's hurting, like Ford's been up 83%. It's like, yeah, they're up so high they're about to go broke and they've canceled their EV sales.
Right. Maybe they shouldn't sell them.
Yeah,
to keep their costs down, you know.
Well, how does that compare to normal cars? Because it's tough times out there.
Right.
It foresees commercial vehicles making $8 to $9 billion, up from $7.2 billion last year. Gasoline-powered vehicles and hybrids are expected to make $7 to $7.5 billion, about even with last year. So gasoline and hybrid profit of 7 to, or maybe that's probably revenue, probably not profit, but 7 to 7.5 billion. Well, they said make. Whatever it is, they're not saying losses. That is interesting. Losses is, profit. And the negative. Anyway, so I think it's saying $7 to $7.5 billion in profit from gas and hybrid, and $5.5 billion in losses from electrical. But still overall you're making $1-2 billion in profit. Okay, cool. But you could be making like $7 billion in profit, which is cooler.
And we're not talking like material shortages. Like they mentioned supply chain. What CNN mentioned supply chain was possibly part of it.
Tesla's talked about how some of the stuff that's hurt them is supply chain issues and all that. And they go, well, yeah, sure, that's part of it. But the real problem is Elon Musk's personality.
Well, but they linked it to the war. They didn't link it to the fact that lithium's hard to mine.
Well, they said that Elon said that.
Oh yeah.
The war in the Middle East has been an issue, that because of supply chains, and that China, their economy slowed, which it has, and that their Tesla plant in Germany was set on fire from arson, which, when you lose a plant to arson, it does slow things down for you. When I set your house on fire, your life was kind of upside down for a little bit.
That's supposed to be the coolest plant they've built because of the paint shop.
Really?
They offer 250,000 different colors you can choose from, or they're supposed to once it's up and fully running.
Once it's not on fire.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I don't think my brain can fathom 250,000 fires.
There'll be no standard color, which is cool.
Oh, so they'll just kind of give you a little wheel to drag around on the website.
Yep.
Wow, that's
and
interesting.
it just gets probably dipped, and that's it,
That's pretty interesting. Huh. Well, and see, that's the kind of stuff that, I know I've been seeing weirder colors these days, but that's the type of innovation that ends up like other people are going to adopt it, and I don't know. So Ford is losing as much as they make on hybrids and gas power, they're losing almost about that much on electric vehicles. But it's just interesting to me that CNN. That CNN would bill, they have this whole article. It's a hit piece. It's just a hit piece on Elon Musk, and for no reason. And when you look at other people, and this is InsideEVs.com, which I found an article on a more legitimate website, but paywall, I'm not paying. So why car companies may lose $6,000 on each EV sold for $50,000. So there's all this stuff in here. But basically what it says is, at the end of the day, most car companies lose $6,000 on every electric vehicle they sell, if they sell it for $50,000 or less.
That's very generalized, because I've heard Rivian loses a lot per car.
Is that right?
Yeah, ridiculous amounts. Because that's just what it takes to ramp up your manufacturing process.
Because the market will only allow so much of a cost, and you're trying to get out there.
Yep.
I guess if the goal is to...
What's the other company? They're about to go bankrupt. I can't remember
I remember there was
the Ocean, the something Ocean.
Huh. I don't know.
That was the model. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, because there was 2 truck companies that were trying to pop
stock.
Oh.
And it's killing me. Well, no, Nikolai is doing a little bit better than it was now that when they finally got rid of their CEO who was BSing everybody.
Man, you can't have a company called Nikolai when you're trying to compete with a company called Tesla.
Well, their goal is hydrogen. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I like them.
But they're starting with electric and then moving into the hydrogen space.
I'm a big fan of hydrogen. Plug Power. That's my my thing I've been holding on to for a while, and they actually got in Europe. They're making tractor trailers like semi trucks, and they just made an agreement with like a couple of Formula One race teams just for branding. But I think they're starting with like tractor trailers, and then they're going. I think they'll try to get into cars later, and then like they make big like generators for like a neighborhood or something that runs on fuel. But for a while, they were trying to use hydroelectric plants to use their idle, the downtime when they're not needing to generate power to then generate liquid hydrogen. So you'd use
that's a good idea.
hydrogen electric to make liquid hydrogen, and then the off gas of that is water vapor. And so use water to make hydrogen to put off water, cycle it all around. All right. So that was just CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. Well, Fox News was unexpected. But either way, those people, you expect them, you expect all of them to be kind of voices for their side. It's all propaganda. But like the CNN thing, that's what struck me out of just like scrolling through real quick. The most egregious thing. Like you have these silly small, nerds that love electric vehicles writing these articles analyzing how much people are losing on EVs. You got, Ford, who is can you imagine being able to lose $5 billion and like not be bankrupt? But like they're losing $5 billion in electric vehicle sales. And CNN says they're at an 83% growth and things are looking shiny if not for Elon Musk. And so it's just like CNN, you're taking my stuff from me.
Just trying to get through this.
That's all right. But so but it's one of those things like it's just CNN wants their hit piece. They want their hit piece and they don't care about reality. Like reality doesn't matter. It's about the goal. And what's the goal is like my team in power. And, they want to be a propaganda outlet for the state, for the left-wing side of the state, for the DNC. And, you step to the DNC, well, they're going to come after you. And it's just like, you see lots of articles that are eye-rolly articles from all these places, but there's some that, like, that's the one that popped up to me where I'm like, I can't even believe this happened at such a dishonest article. Because, like, all the numbers say otherwise. But you go, how about if you use percentages? You go, well, maybe it looks better. It's that fun with numbers.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like that's electric vehicles is the soapbox for the left, but you're going to destroy a guy who is nearly single-handedly pushing the agenda that you support, and you're going to destroy him?
Created the market. He created the market single-handedly. And like, because Priuses were never going to take over the country. And there's no way people were going to ever line up for a Prius or the Nissan Leaf or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah, hybrids were more of an introduction to me.
Even when they had the full electric ones, it was just like they looked like those toy mice that cats play with. That's what these things look like. And I don't know about you, but when I see a Prius in front of me, I hate them.
I definitely hate the original design. The newest design is pretty good. Like, I'm impressed that Toyota finally like pulled their head out of their ass, so to speak.
Yeah,
with design because it looks sleeker. But
it's sleeker, but I still hate them. I decided that's gonna be my next intolerance. Every New Year's I become intolerant to something. So my next one's gonna be Priuses. I'm just gonna be totally intolerant to them. I'll be intolerant to vegans, runners, biking outfits, and Priuses. Yeah,
especially when they're not on the bike. Ugh.
Yeah, all their little fluorescent tights and their helmets and stuff. Like, come on. I get it. I get it if you're in the Tour de France and you got to cut down your drag. I get it. You're riding through my neighborhood. You're all right. You can wear just shorts and a t-shirt. Like, you're just not. It's fine. All right. Well, so there's more stuff where it's the worry is not reality. The worry is winning. Okay. This time we're going to focus on we focus on the not government CNN media. You know, like they're definitely not part of the government. So let's talk about the actual government. So Biden appointed a judge at some point, a U.S. district judge named Anna Reyes. So on Friday, she sharply criticized the Department of Justice for instructing its personnel not to comply with subpoenas from the House Judiciary Committee while pursuing charges against former Trump officials who defied congressional subpoenas. All right, so Reyes, an appointee of President Joe Biden, oversaw a hearing in a legal dispute between the DOJ and the Judiciary Committee over subpoenas the panel issued to Mark Daley and Jack Morgan, two attorneys with the DOJ, to testify in their ongoing impeachment inquiry. The Judiciary Committee sued in March to compel testimony from the two attorneys and the DOJ tax division, though the DOJ instructed the pair not to comply. So these are two people that were part of the Hunter Biden tax investigation, and there's been a whistleblower that said, well, the executive branch was saying, don't look this stuff up, just kill the case. All right, Reyes, for her part, appeared to accuse the DOJ of hypocrisy, stating, I think it's quite rich you guys pursue criminal investigations and put people in jail for not showing up, but then order personnel to do the same thing. Oopsie, didn't need that. She further highlighted the contrast between the DOJ's behavior in this matter and the prosecution and incarceration of former Trump advisor Peter Navarro, who reported to prison last month to begin serving his 4-month sentence for contempt of Congress after he ignored a subpoena from the House January 6th committee. There's a person in jail right now because you all brought a criminal lawsuit against him because he did not appear for a House subpoena, she added. She ordered the DOJ to attempt to negotiate a resolution for House Counsel Matthew Berry. So you have this one dude, Peter Navarro, who was a Trump advisor, and for the January 6th committee, which at this point, we know the January 6th committee. The January 6th committee was BS. They hired a TV executive to put on this whole video, to edit this video together, to push forward a message, and that's what it was all about. They were not seeking the truth. They were seeking to, hoist people up and, say they're the bad guy, lock them up, throw away the key in order to win elections. We know at this point through all the footage coming out that some of the testimony was outright lies. We know that people are in prison right now based on testimony that was outright lies by Capitol Police officers. They perjured themselves repeatedly in order to send people to prison who, trespassing, rioting, whatever. Okay. But, 4 years, 12 years in prison. And part of it's because they were so unruly, they were saying the N-word, they were trying to fight Capitol Police officers, they were doing all this stuff. And it's oh, who testified? It's these two guys. They go, well, now we got this video evidence that says they're both liars, And the chief of the Capitol Police is hiding it still. They go, hey, what do you think about them lying under oath? He goes, they didn't. He's we reviewed everything he said. It looks like everything he said is fine. It's but what about everything that was inaccurate, where he was standing, or the fact that the other guy, his story was totally different and also not factual. They both told two different stories. Both of them are lies, and people are in prison for it. So anyway, Peter Navarro didn't want to show up to this circus. It was nothing about justice. The January 6th committee was all about, pointing fingers to make people look like jerks and criminals, really. So he didn't show up, and now he's got to do 4 months in federal prison. And, for not showing up. Contempt of Congress. And he may be the only person to ever go to prison for contempt of Congress, because, Obama's, what was Eric Holder? He was the head. Was he the head of the DOJ? He was the attorney general. So the Attorney General of the DOJ, or the Attorney General of the United States, Eric Holder, was called in front of Congress for Operation Fast and Furious. And Fast and Furious was when the Obama Department of Justice was running machine guns to Mexican cartel members. So our official plan was we wanted to take a lot of machine guns in America, and probably some ARs too, run them down and sell them to the Mexican cartels, knowing that they would bring them into America to commit crimes. And then probably the plan was like, hey, look, these American guns are being used by bad guys to kill Americans. We should take away AR-15s or whatever. Probably the goal in this was to show gun violence. Oopsie doopsie. Basically, instead, they just armed drug cartels, and they use those guns however the hell they want to, because they just bought them off the federal government and like made clowns of them. And so Eric Holder didn't show. I think Obama gave him executive protection or whatever, but I think they held him in contempt. He didn't serve a day in prison. He didn't, he's still today, if you ask him about it, he'll talk about how awesome he is. Obama will talk about how awesome. The only scandal that ever happened was when I wore a tan suit. And it's like, okay. Like, I remember caring about a tan suit, but for the most part, I remember the CNN branches and the Obama people talking about, and I'm sure maybe people on Fox News made fun of his suit. Okay. But they go, that's the only scandal he ever had, the Obama-Biden presidency. It's like, yeah, I guess so. Other than, not allowing Tea Party groups to get their 501c3, not allowing them to like register in time to do funding or campaign activities for the midterm elections, running machine guns to the cartel. Just there's a few things that popped up along the way. There was Benghazi, that was another one. There was the whole drone striking an American citizen. So, there's a few things outside the tan suit. Possibly afterwards he killed his chef that he was having weird relations with. I don't know.
It's fine.
It's fine. I do wonder, like, that chef thing was... Like, I get it.
He drowned, right?
He drowned in like a pond outside.
In a pond.
He was like windsurfing at the Obama's house in Martha's Vineyard. And so, he was a chef. He worked at the White House, and then they hired him away from the White House. And good looking fella. And, but he, at some point he was just windsurfing in this like pond lake thing. And I guess he had a medical incident, they said, and he ended up drowning. Yeah. I don't know. That's weird. That's weird. But, at least he didn't hang himself with an extension cord and then shoot himself in the chest with a shotgun and then throw the shotgun 30 feet away from his body.
Only the experts get away with that.
That's Class A Clinton stuff right there. It's like this guy that worked for the Clintons did what? He hung himself with an extension cable and shot himself in the chest with a shotgun, and the shotgun was found 30 feet away? It's like, yeah, and? Suicide. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. All right, so they're trying to play this on both sides. If you don't show up for a congressional subpoena, you go to prison, unless, of course, you were there to support the Biden administration, and then you're good. Speaking of that topic, this is from the Daily Wire. I don't think this is all that important except for one thing. So White House visitor logs show that an attorney for Hunter Biden met with one of First Lady Jill Biden's top aides, as well as President Joe Biden himself, days before the president's son defied a congressional subpoena, the New York Post reported Saturday. His attorney met with... Anyway, Hunter Biden defied a congressional subpoena.
No.
Did he do federal prison time? No. Like, eventually, it says in here, eventually he agreed to do he showed up for something. Probably they started threatening him a little bit. But still, like, this guy defied a subpoena. Like old Hunter there with his, like, 2 yellow teeth. That's the thing, man. Like, all his pictures have these, like,
crack teeth.
Crack teeth. Come on. Maybe. Crack teeth. Between crack and cigarettes, like, those front teeth are going to take a beating. Maybe they can't even be bleached anymore. Maybe if they bleach that thing, it'll just crumble like the sand.
It's being held together by crack.
That's How do you keep these cracks in my teeth from falling apart? It's like, I know, more crack. But yeah, so once again, another group of, it's like, all right, so the DOJ says you don't need to show up for a subpoena. If you're Hunter Biden, you don't have to show up to a subpoena. But if you're friendly with Trump, if you're, not on the team of CNN and the government, and you don't show up for a subpoena, 4 months in federal prison. 4 months. And like, what's the crime? The crime is not talking to these assholes who are public servants. I mean, granted, he's supposed to be a public servant too, I think. I don't know what his role was. I can't remember Peter Navarro's role. But yeah, a lot of, like any good government, there's different rules depending on who you are. Yeah, like if you're on our team, yeah, all right. What's that saying? Who was it? One of these despots. He said, like, for my friends, everything. For my enemies, the law. That's just one of those, like...
It's very blatant.
Yeah. Excuse me. But it's, it is one of those things, like, when you get to decide when and... Like, the more laws you have, the more you can decide who has to follow them and, what power you get to wield over them. Let me see where I want to go next on here. I guess we'll do this. This is just the news. So Vivek was talking a lot about, firing like everybody. And Donald Trump has since been talking a lot about firing everybody. And so Joe Biden is making it harder to fire federal employees. The Biden administration recently implemented a new rule that would make it more difficult to fire federal employees. On Thursday, the Office of Personnel Management issued a rule that nonpartisan career civil servants with protected status will not be able to have their status taken away. The rule also doesn't allow civil servants to be labeled as political appointees, even if they're politically appointed. This would make it more difficult for presumptive GOP candidate. Why is it presumptive? He won the primary at this point. Why is it presumptive? He is the candidate. Anyway, Donald Trump to make good on his promise to radically change the structure of the U.S. government by shrinking the workforce. Biden referred to the rule as a step toward combating corruption and partisan interference to ensure civil servants are able to focus on the most important task at hand, delivering. This rule is meant to counter the Trump rule known as Schedule F, which would have taken away the protection of civil servants and made sure political reasons were not the reasons for them being hired. Conservatives are angry about it, saying it would make the federal bureaucracy less accountable. OPM's final rule is yet another example of the Biden administration's effort to insulate the federal workforce from accountability. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer said in a statement, "The federal workforce exists to serve the American people, yet many Americans have a deep and growing distrust of the federal bureaucracy. The Biden administration's rule will further undermine Americans' confidence in their government since it allows poor performing federal workers and those who attempt to thwart policies of duly elected president to remain entrenched in the federal bureaucracy. We need more accountability for the unelected bureaucracy, not less," he added. So, the bureaucracy, the federal employees, and you talk about what is the deep state. The deep state is just federal employees who aren't elected that can be there forever, and they have political opinions. They are not neutral nobodies, and so, say a lot of them got the job through appointments from Barack Obama. Maybe when Trump's in office, they go, I don't like that guy. Maybe vice versa. Someone got appointed during Trump, Biden gets elected, they go, I don't like that guy. And so, there's certain positions, cabinet positions, and all that. The president gets to appoint, but then the workers, at some point, they got these special protections where a president can't come in and just fire the entire executive branch, even though it's a member of the executive branch, which reports to the chief of the executive branch, who's the president. And that doesn't make any sense because you don't need a dictator when you have an ever-living bureaucracy. That was not my quote, but I like it. But yeah, you don't need a dictator when you have an ever-living bureaucracy. It will go on forever, and like you just have this monster, this old Hydra monster that'll go around limiting what you can do, creating rules, regulating your life, whether it's a good president or a bad president, you know. And when your government's so bloated and it costs so much to run, and you need to make cuts, and then suddenly it's like, well, you can make cuts in certain things, but you can't make cuts in how many people work in that department. And like, I know for my businesses, payroll is one of the top expenses. You know, like you have cost of goods sold, you sell for over that, but payroll's expensive. So suddenly you can't eliminate payroll? Like, well, that's interesting. So, you know, they are smelling the writing on the wall that the chances of re-election are not high. And so what they want to do is make it so that after they lose, their policies can live on, because it'll be this kind of entrenched bureaucracy thing. It'll be bigger than a president. It'll just be how it is. It's the system, and you can't change the system. It's just how the system is.
It's almost like they've created a paradox, because if nobody is allowed to get rid of people that are a problem, your problem stays.
Yep.
So it's just this circle of problem.
It just seems right. Well, and a lot of them are protected by a union, and it's a government employee or public sector union. And so, like, then you go, okay, well, how does a public sector union work? It's like, well, they protect employees from getting fired. And it's like, well, how about their pay increases and all that? It's like, well, they negotiate that with people who are getting elected into government. And so they find the person, they go, who are we going to support? And one of the candidates goes, I promise to give your union members a pay bump, and you get to take credit. And they go, great, I'll take that because I get a percentage of all that, you know. And so they go, okay. And so then they take the dues that come from all the public employees, which means their salaries are paid with our tax dollars. So our tax dollars pays them. They take a percentage of it to the union, and then they take a chunk of that money and they give it to the politician, who then gives more of our money to the union, who then gives a chunk, it goes all around. But they're playing with our money and then using it to bribe union officials to then keep the person offering the bribe in power. The money just flows, and it's our money. Our money goes to the employee, from the employee to the union to the politician who promises more money to the employees. It's over and over.
Yeah, so now you have a paradox controlling another paradox. This is weird.
This is, one might say corrupt. That might be the word that I'm looking for, is this is corrupt.
Corrupt to maintain the corruption. I like it. Wow.
Yep. And so you say, well, I guess they just keep making rules, Just keep making more rules, and rules on top of rules on top of rules. And then you enforce the ones you like. You don't enforce the ones you don't like. Well, during this election, it's been interesting on the Democratic side of things, because they didn't let RFK Jr. participate, really. They weren't doing any debates, which, he's an incumbent president. You kind of understand. But they weren't letting people on the ballot. And they were saying, even if you win delegates in an election, you don't get any of the delegates, like whoever, like say you win, 20 delegates in the state, you don't get to get them, like Biden gets the delegates no matter what. And so they're kind of just changed the rules, which they, the super delegate thing is on the DNC side now. That was, I think that was to try and stop Bernie Sanders, where it's just like, all right, we have super delegates and they're worth like 1,000 delegates. So, they keep coming with these weird corrupt rules of how to run things.
Super duper delegates.
Yeah, it's a super duper delegate. So, but they stay, but the rules are important, and like, say you're a member of the Libertarian Party. Ballot access is important. You want to be on the ballot. County people focus on it. State people focus on it. National people focus on it. Ballot access is important. There's a roadmap of when things are due. There's election times. You track these things. Because if you miss something because you just weren't paying attention, that's a major screw up. And you've let down a lot of people, potential candidates, etc. Well, then there's the DNC. Biden could face challenges getting on the Ohio general ballot. So the state of Ohio, which can be a swing state at times, it's kind of gone red recently like Florida has. But at one point, Florida and Ohio were like the swing states, you know. There could be potential general election ballot access concerns for President Joe Biden in Ohio. The state Secretary of State's office said in a letter to the Ohio Democratic Chair Liz Walters. Okay. The DNC is scheduled to do their convention on August 19th, which will take place more than a week after the August 7th deadline to certify a presidential candidate in Ohio. The office flagged, according to the state code, which would create a problem for Biden's eligibility. Basically, I am left to conclude that the DNC must either move up its nominating convention or the Ohio General Assembly must act by May 9th, 90 days prior to the new law's effective date, to create an exception to the statutory requirement. Well, that's interesting. So the new rule's not even in effect till May, which is funny with a red state. I wonder if they did that on purpose just to screw with the DNC. Could have been. But either way, that law was passed, and now it's just like, all right, Biden, you want to be on the ballot in Ohio? Like, DNC's got to do something. I bet what they end up doing is just saying, well, we're going to certify him as our candidate on whatever date. The convention is just for show, but the delegates, we've said, delegates, turn your votes. We're going to certify it ahead of time. Then this will be all symbolism after that. Because, I mean, it's all symbolism anyway. Like the DNC, the RNC, like no one's going to take it away from Biden or Trump. Like if either one of them steps to the side, okay, but no one's going to take it from them. These conventions are nonsense, you know. But I do now wonder if Ohio passed that law as kind of like as other states were trying to get Trump off the ballot by just saying, treason or whatever. Like you're an insurrectionist, you can't be on our ballot. I wonder if Ohio was like, well, we got our own little tricks up our sleeve. But it is one of those interesting things. The DNC should know about this. They have a presence in Ohio. I'm confident in it. And they don't know when they need their stuff turned in by.
Well, unless they're trying to set up the right wing to show that they're also trying to prevent somebody from being on a ballot. I don't know. Like,
yeah, possible.
Like stage it.
I think it's just that these big parties, I think the DNC just thinks they're above everybody. And it just doesn't matter. You know, like they go, yeah, that might be a rule, but he's going to be on the ballot. Like he'll be on the ballot. Don't worry about your stupid rules. Just like in the last election, you know, the Sidney Powell came up with all this crazy stuff about how the election may have been stolen and everything. But if you look at how the voting laws were changed in like Pennsylvania and a couple other states where it's like, well, technically they weren't changed according to the law. That means the changes were illegal, which means votes that occurred by those means, like the drop boxes and all that, were invalid. Of course, they said they didn't want to disenfranchise the voter, and so they count them anyway. But like technically speaking, in those states that made those changes, including Pennsylvania, you know, those were illegal election changes. But who cares? You know, like get the votes, get in there, win the state, and after that, force a judge to change the results of a state's presidential election. Like put that on a judge. No judge is going to want to do that. And go, look, y'all didn't do it the right way. Y'all need to fix it by the next election. But, you know, the people have spoken, and if there's no obvious fraud in the ballots themselves, then it counts. I mean, it counts, but like, you know.
Don't do it again.
Don't you do it again. I'm mad. I'm mad. Please don't do it again. And I think they're just like, yeah, we'll do it whenever we want to. Like,
we'll just do it differently the next time.
Just stop us one time, and maybe we'll learn our lesson, but you're never going to. What should we talk about now? Sure, let's talk about this idiot. So, the other big thing happening, if you've heard, there's a conflict in Ukraine with Russia. Have you heard about this? Have you heard about this?
Yeah. Yep.
It's been going on for a little bit, apparently. Russia does not want Ukraine to join NATO. But Blinken, our Secretary of State, he says eventually they will be in NATO. So U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken indicated that Ukraine will eventually become a member of the NATO alliance, making the comment while standing alongside Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba in Brussels, Belgium. Kuleba? I don't know. Blinken's remarks sparked pushback from some American political right. And Mike Lee, NATO can have Ukraine or the U.S., but not both. Here's the thing. We should get out of NATO. Like, I don't care who's in NATO, but the U.S. shouldn't be. Someone else, J.D. Vance, is completely irresponsible. Ukraine shouldn't do it. Wesley Hunt. Biden administration seems hell-bent on walking us into a global conflict with Russia. The United States and our allies are united in our commitment to Ukraine. As today's foreign ministers' meeting of the NATO-Ukraine Council, we are reaffirmed that Ukraine's future is in NATO. That is a tweet from Anthony Blinken. So what is one thing that might cause World War III, Charlie?
Gee, I don't know. Adding another country to NATO?
Maybe one directly on Russia's border. Maybe like the largest border country with Russia. Like, you know, I know we've talked about it. Other people have talked about it. But, you know, like, was it under Bill Clinton or whatever? The Niet means Niet memo, where it's just like Ukraine is the brightest of red lines. Like, they cannot join NATO. Like, there's, you know, at this time it was a different Russia. So there was like more left wing, more right wing, more like there's all the spectrum. 100% of the spectrum was like, well, no, if Ukraine joins NATO, that's a problem. And we're going to have to go to war about it. And like, we don't want to, but you can't do that. You know, it'd be like us, you know, China and Russia setting up Mexico and Canada as their little proxies, you know, like, oh, we're in a global alliance. So if U.S. troops go into Mexico with guns, well, then that means that means Russia and China are going to go to war with the United States. We go, that's crazy. Because, by the way, during the George W. Bush years, a couple of military guys were driving in Texas or California, I think Texas. And at some point, they ended up in Mexico. They didn't go through a big border area. It was just a road, you know. And I think it had a sign probably, but they missed the sign. And so they're like, shit. They go turn around, you know. Whoop, whoop, whoop. They get pulled over. Military uniform, U.S. military uniform. They're just like, hey, man, we didn't realize we ended up in Mexico. That's our bad. And they're like, oh, yeah, pop the trunk. Well, a lot of guns in the trunk. He goes, oh, you can't have these in Mexico. This is a crime, dog. Yeah, no, we're like U.S. military. We didn't mean to be in Mexico. We're trying to be in Texas. And so then they went to prison for a long time. W didn't get them out. None of the Texas, like, he was the president, who was a former governor from Texas. And I don't know. He just didn't feel like flexing that muscle. But in that incident, if Mexico was some part of some China-Russia military alliance, they could say, well, that's a U.S. invasion. We're going to war. You know, and like, we would never stand for that. We would not stand for that in the slightest. We go, oh, yeah, it's going to be like that? Well, might as well go to war right now. And so we just go and probably topple the head of Mexico and install our own person who cancels their, you know, like, I mean, we would just not sit around and complain about it. Just like Pooty Poot's not going to sit around and complain about it. He's already in a war now, in part because Ukraine was saying they were going to join NATO. And they said, no. So don't join NATO. We won't invade. They go, we want to join NATO. They go, yeah, but don't. Go, yeah, we want to. He goes, okay. And so he invades. And look, you can't invade. It's, you know, it's never okay to invade another country and all that kind of stuff. People say, you point out that there's causes for the invasion. And they say it's an excuse for the invasion. You're doing Putin's puppetry and all that kind of stuff. But like, for real, when there's years of saying Ukraine and NATO will cause a military response by Russia that they don't want to do, but they will, by God, do it. And then you go, let's bring him in. And there's a military response. And he just acts shocked, you know.
Right. All you had to do was not do that. But you did it.
And like now you kind of feel like maybe it's kind of wrapping up. You go, I don't know. Like we keep giving them money. And, you know, our war hawks still are saying like, well, it's the cheapest way to go because we can weaken Russia the most without using U.S. troops. We just send money. You know, we give them money to turn around and buy weapons from the U.S. firms. So they end up with missiles. We send them money, so they buy missiles from U.S. companies. It's just nonsense. But beyond, you know, so they go, oh, let's just keep going, keep weakening them. You go, all right, well, at some point, something's got to give. They're either going to, like, all Ukrainian men are going to die or something, you know, or at some point they'll have to resolve this conflict, you know. But if the U.S. won't let them resolve it and instead say Ukraine's going to be part of NATO, good luck resolving it and good luck avoiding tactical nuclear weapons. I mean, like, what? Why would he use them? Maybe if we are escalating things.
Poking the bear.
But, yeah, a Russian bear.
Well, that's supported by China. And, I mean, Russia's getting weapons from, of all countries, North Korea.
Really?
Yes.
Do they even work?
I don't know. Apparently they do. Apparently they've gotten more accurate as far as not launching and just splashing in the water.
But you know what their secret weapon is, right?
What, North Korea?
Yeah.
What is their secret weapon?
Eric Bowling.
That's great.
Yeah, my employees have not seen that movie. Or the South Park movie, for that matter. I don't know what's wrong with them.
They're just like younger.
Yeah. Yeah. But still, like, one of them watches every stupid movie. And it's like, this is a stupid movie.
Best stupid movie.
Yeah, it's great. I don't know. There's all this other silly stuff on Russia. Like, did you see... Do you remember the Havana syndrome?
Yes.
Yeah, let's flip to this real quick. We'll just do this and then wrap up real quick. All right. So first of all, I want you to look at this picture. Okay? This is not somebody. See this lady? She's reporting anonymously, so they disguised her.
Is the wig is the disguise?
The wig is the disguise.
Okay, she looks familiar.
Well, I don't know who she is, but maybe they gave her eyeshadow and a blonde wig to protect her identity.
And she was good with this?
She's on camera, isn't she?
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, let's see. A lead. This is CBS. That it was on. It was a 60 Minutes thing, but lead U.S. military investigator examining reports of what has become his Havana syndrome told 60 Minutes he believes the U.S. officials are being attacked by Russia and that the official threshold to prove it was set impossibly high. Greg, a now retired Army Lieutenant Colonel, anyway, they ran this whole thing about the secret, like, laser weapon that was causing headaches and disorientation and all that. And the number of people who are kind of agreeing, look at this person, has agreed to withhold the last name of quote-unquote Carrie, a Havana syndrome victim who is still an FBI agent working in counterintelligence.
So we know her first name is Carrie.
Well, no, it's a quote Carrie. That's her pseudonym.
But they're withholding her last name.
Well, it's a pseudonym anyway.
Okay. I just want to clarify
What
this.
we know is what her job as FBI counterintelligence agent, and that
Goodbye, Carrie.
And that is what her face looks like. The only thing we know is where she works and exactly what she looks like. But we're not going to talk about it. Protect her identity. Because her bosses will never figure it out. She's got a wig on.
Good luck, Carrie.
Yeah. And the intelligence people speaking on this are very comparable to the ones that said Hunter Biden's laptop had all the signs of Russian disinformation. So it's like these same sorts of intelligence agents are saying, like, watch out. Russia's got this, like, Havana syndrome laser. And, like, Reason wrote this whole retort to it where they were just talking about, like, you know, the people that were reporting, like, I'm hearing these strange noises and it's causing me dizziness and all that. It was, like, concluded to be, I think, actual crickets. Like, the noise was crickets. It was like a
Like harmonics, like kind of the harmonics of it.
yeah, it's just like in Cuba, there's a specific type of cricket that makes a specific kind of noise. Like the frogs in Jamaica make a, but I guess it was causing some of them discomfort. But, Havana syndrome was investigated and largely thrown out. Then out of the blue, years later, CBS is coming out with a bunch of corrupt intelligence officials, including Carrie with her wig, and bringing it back up for some reason. So, like, we got Blinken saying, Ukraine's coming to NATO. We got CBS, who's definitely not affiliated with the government, saying, and Russia's got, like, sound weapons that are, like, blasting us in the head. And French President Macron is saying he has no doubt that Russia's going to target the Paris Olympics. It doesn't matter. It's just Macron talking. It's just, I have no doubt Russia's going to, attack the Olympics in Paris. It's like, no doubt, not any doubt. You know for a fact he's going to attack a bunch of innocents at the Olympics in France, a NATO country. I feel like there's some doubt. He's like focusing on one front of a war, and he's going to pick a fight, start a war in France, where the UK and Germany and the US, like, people will come to the aid of France if they're attacked. Like, I don't know. It's all BS.
Well, and just like the farmers, like just the support from the local farmers in a lot of these countries, like these European countries, it's like, really, you're going to pick a fight again? They've already lit and spewed manure all over the country. They have no problem doing it. They'll do it again.
Yeah. No, I love what the farmers have been doing.
Yeah, it's great.
But that's the thing. Like, I don't trust any of these turds, because it's just like, why right now are you coming out saying Ukraine's going to join NATO, that Russia's going to attack the Olympics, and that they have sound laser beams that cause you to be nauseous and have headaches and stuff? It's like, this is weird. Like, this is what we've spent this week doing. It's like, why? And so I don't know. I think part of it is that the support for this war is waning, and they go, hey, remember, Russia's real bad. This is how bad they are. Look how bad they are. All right, man. I think that'll do us for this week. The lesson here is our government sucks, and we should eliminate as much of it as possible, even if they tell us we can't through bureaucratic protections. What do we got for next week?
Nothing.
No, that's it? Okay.
Yeah,
that's what we have to look forward to. Nothing. The vast nothingness that has enveloped our souls. But follow our vast nothingness on YouTube and Rumble and all the socials and, the iTunes and things, and loadedtalk.com. But until next week, I'll see you.